Hello, everybody, and welcome to week one of the Capsule Cast. I'm your host, DoorGuard, followed by my co hosts, Donut and Oasis. Would you guys go ahead and give us a warm welcome?
Why, hello. This is Oasis.
Hello, I'm Donut, coach of the androids.
Oasis is also coach of the Namekians. We are still getting all the kinks worked out, but obviously for week one, we had a little practice with preseason for those who saw it. Is up on the test channel, but no worries about catching that up. Preseason's results are a little less required now that we're into week one. So, you guys have anything else you want to say, or should we get right onto the matches?
Let's do it.
Uh, yeah, exactly. Let's do it.
All right, this first one's already hot topic since Oasis is here. We have Namek versus Royals, and Namek managed to win. Now, if I recall correctly, most of us thought Royals would win, and even in general chat on the Discord, which you can feel free to join, we have pretty much all thought Royals would just eke out a win here, but it would be like a 50-40 kind of thing. So, what did you guys think of the match?
Oh, for sure. Namek's side, we thought it was going to be a tough match because Majin Vegeta, excellent meleeer, excellent B2er, he pretty much shut down any of our starting options. You had Slug, who had freaking power body on him. So even if you were to take him down to low health, this man was just going to slap you with super explosive wave, another B2, maybe it's a nice ping pong combo, take you out. Plus, the fact that Mecha Frieza with ultimate spam potential. So I would definitely agree with those in general chat. This was definitely in the favor of Royals. However, somehow, some way, Nuova who has been our problem child since the beginning, decided to step up with a nice 71,000 points of damage versus the Royals. To say that that was unexpected is an understatement because I was sure he was going to get destroyed by Devora and we wouldn't be able to do anything. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts on it, I thought at the same time, I thought Royals would take it, not handle it, but I thought it'd be, like Joy said, a 60-40 type of split. But when I looked at the match, I saw Nuova go, not just toe to toe, but like stomping the butt. I was like, oh, well, that's a game change, right? Nuova just kind of popping off by now. Like I said, doing 71, and then as soon as Nuova went down, I'm like, well, who do they have left? What do they have in the tank? And you had LP, Late Piccolo, in the back, who's arguably your best character. Um, and he did a nice 65,000 on his own right. So yeah, it's very nice showing from Namek overall. And not saying that Royals did bad by any means, though. Pilaf actually did very well. Who's their prop child. But being on your home map obviously helps, and having 60,000 plus performances helps, in any match. So very impressive.
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of the good points there, Donut. I mean, obviously, looking at builds, there was some very strong ones coming out. I know we've seen some super builds on Pilaf and Deborah even messing around a little bit, but I would say they came out with a pretty strong squad. I know having Mecha out is tedious one, but really there's not like a great character to take out, especially in a non-divisional. And talking about
Mm-hmm.
that non-divisional was a very interesting, and it's why we're very happy to have you today, Oasis, in that you already used a boost week one for Nuoa for the
Mm-hmm.
light body. Now, being a tester myself, I've seen a lot of your tests going on with Nuova and trying a lot of different things. And obviously, the Power of Rage came in handy with him winning his one clash. But the light body boost already in a non divisional week one had a lot of people talking. So, kind of what was the thought process going into adding that in for the first week?
So, going back to the whole preparation of the match, once again, this match had a lot of moving parts to it. We couldn't really figure out what to do because if we lost early, then the late game would be so much harder. So we decided, hey, might as well make the early game as close as possible and give Nuova light body, since we know Deborah would be second. And if Majin Vegeta started, which would be the worst case scenario, then he will at least have some protection from the Rush Blast. He'll at least be able to interact with Vegeta and Deborah if they decide to just zone him out with Rush Blast, which actually came in handy later down the line as he started throwing out more B2s than he ever did before in testing, due to the
Mm-hmm.
fact he wasn't getting interrupted by Rush Blast. But more importantly, I would say like you just mentioned, it's the power of rage. I did not think it would come in handy this much during the match. I didn't think there'd be this much clashing that he would be able to take advantage of. But he did, and he was able to capitalize on it very well.
Yeah, think about that. Think about the logic behind it. It makes a lot of sense, right? Dabura being one of the strongest members of Royals, and Majin Vegeta has been known to start with Royals in preseason. I know when we played him, they used him first, and so having Light Body obviously makes him nullifies those rush blasts, allowing for Nuova to get off those 7v2s, landing for 6 of them. So very smart game plan from you guys.
Was certainly
Exactly.
a lot. Yeah, I would agree with that, Oasis and Donut. Those are some crazy predictions. I mean, having King Piccolo out, I could see also why adding in that extra boost, since King Piccolo is what most people know of the team as kind of the main trump card. But seeing as how it's the first time in a long time having Nuova, probably not a bad idea to put some more effort into that. But I mean, Royals still had, like I was saying, some solid builds. Eternal Life Majin Vegeta, no joke. You guys had Eternal Life Nail on the full tank side with a little bit of charge with the Fighting Spirit, but I mean, that was just a full-on attack. Majin Vegeta Eternal Life, still Master Blast Dabura, everybody knows and complains about that. So there was a lot of, I think everybody's just about shocked at the outcome, even though it really shouldn't be that surprising. I think a lot of people underrate Team Namek with how consistent we've seen members like Nail have been during the preseason.
Well, regarding Nail, at least in this match, he actually didn't do too hot. I would say it's probably due to the fact he was facing Majin Vegeta, but regardless, he only did 16k. So he didn't have his most impressive showing this time around, but it's at the end of the day, I would say it's fair for people to underestimate us. We aren't exactly the strongest team in the league. We aren't exactly the most, dominant team in the league either. But when the whole team works together, we are a force to be reckoned with. Well, what can I say? Especially versus Majin Vegeta, Dabura, those two alone could probably sweep our team.
Yeah, Nail was actually one of the shocking moments for me. Seeing, I thought he would do very well going into the match. I believe he went up against Pilaf and Majin Vegeta. I believe those were the two he went up against, and Pilaf actually did very well against him. I was like, well, that's not shocking considering how well Nail did in preseason matches last week, especially. So, but hey, he did just enough to eke out the win. So, what more do you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll really just be on when we're talking later for the predictions on next week. That'll be a big one. Is will Nail be able to make that comeback? As he and Tambourine were the only two to do under their 40. I know we are waiting for stats on Royals, and next week Capsules Cast we will definitely make sure to wait till all stats are in. We are just a little antsy this time, but hey, sometimes you just got to get on that ball when you're feeling it. Are you guys ready to move on to match 2 of the week?
Sure.
All right, I'll take that as a unified yes then. So, match 2 was Androids versus Resurrected Warriors. Now, this was another one. I think we also combined in favor of Androids winning this one, but we knew Resurrected Warriors are a little bit of a newer team, so we had to give them a little lower ball of a look as more of an underdog look. But Androids did manage to come out on top. So Oasis has unfortunately dropped from us for a small period, but hopefully he will rejoin here shortly. Until then, Donut, luckily you are a member of the Androids, in fact, coach.
Yes.
So kind of what are your opinions on the match going from having, again, 17 on the Cell build with Eternal Life and all that, and having him out and really just going hard for this one?
hmm for me, I thought the match went exactly as I thought it would go. I knew Resurrected Warriors is a very strong team against us, actually using two androids themselves in 8 and 18. So I looked at them like, well, all right, how do we fit in 19 into this equation, right? Because 19 with his grab doesn't really get any key off of either 18 or Ada. So I kind of looked at him like, well, 16's obviously a starter. 17's a good closer. 19's a good closer. Um, and ironically, the one thing that we wanted to happen actually did happen, which was blowing up the map. We intentionally put Super 17 second for that to happen. So we know he likes to spam his ult. So once that happened, I was like, I had a big sigh of relief to that on I guess you can say a neutral map, right? But overall, I thought the match went about as well as I could have done. Is definitely our worst lineup against their best. And I was pleasantly surprised with how well 19 actually did, getting his 40k plus. So I was very pleased with the results.
Yeah, some interesting transitions. I know you don't always run Power of Rage in Android 19. It's kind of come and gone depending on the situation. And
Yep.
even more so, I believe, with Android 16, the double usage against the high Rush B2 usage of Resurrected Warriors, especially with their characters such as Videl. Oops, that's the wrong tab. The Videl and Android 18 Ult. I know they don't necessarily have a ton outside of that, but it was still an interesting kind of transition. Funny enough, on the Super 17 Ults, he didn't really do too much damage, but he hit both ults that he fired that match. So even though it was a sub 40k performance, it was certainly one that at least had it showing, even though he didn't do too much in between, but he definitely made use of his tag out and savior by hitting both ults that he fired. So
Yes.
welcome back, Oasis. What did you think of the Androids versus Resurrected Warriors match?
I would say it was a doozy. I didn't expect number 19 to do as well as he did, for certain. I was expecting that 18 would take care of him, or 8 would take care of him, due to the fact that they have that 19 is inherently weak to other androids, since he can't steal their energy. But he definitely proved me wrong this match. He showed me that his melee is enough to make up for it, and that he doesn't need energy to particularly keep up with his opponents, or in fact that he actually can definitely overtake them with how aggressive he is. But more importantly, is like you were saying with Super 17, sure, he didn't do as many melee combos, he didn't throw as many B2s as 17 or 19 or 16, but he was there when it mattered with his ultimates. And as you already know, Android 16 is really, really, really strong this season. Stronger than any other season, I would say. Doing 60k here versus Videl versus Android 18, he's just a solid mailer as an Android, and his throws just give him a free 5k. So what's there to say?
Yeah, going back on the point of 16, we kind of changed up his build this week, right? With Power of Rage. And that was obviously intentional with Videl being the starter as usual against us. And ironically, that didn't actually pay off because they didn't get into any clashes. But 19 did with Videl and late into the match, which actually came in super clutch. But I'd say the surprising point of the match actually is not even on my team. I say in Vegeta is the big shocking moment being just over 30,000 in damage overall. And you expect an a Vegeta to do more than 30,000, but 17 kind of took it to him, right? And then 17 into 19 um, with the high speed rush kind of was able to take him out. And then obviously Super 17 at the end of the ult. But it was very a shocking moment because when I saw M Vegeta come out against a weakened 17 off of the 18 ult, I was like, well, this is probably doomed. It's probably done. And then 17 does what he does, right? But yeah, that was one of the most shocking moments for me to see how poor M Vegeta did. But to contrast that, 18 and Ada pulled their weight and then some. So I'll be pleased with that.
Yeah, on that topic, Donut, there was really just who slipped up. With it coming down to the last bar, many ults thrown out, Super 17 with 2, Android 18 through 3 and hit 2. It was really just a matter of one B2 hitting, and Vegeta maybe not quite doing you know, that he still did hit, nearly 32,000.
Yeah.
And reminder, every character's HP bar is 40,000, so he didn't quite do enough to take his character. And with Videl also struggling, even though Ader and Android 18 brought it back a good bit, it was just which team had the character that just dropped it just enough. And Androids had 3 characters that hit over their 40, so maybe not necessarily as many standout performances, but they had enough consistency overall in the entire team. So it'll be interesting, though. I know Cell's been out for a good while, and as I have been saying, the 17 has kind of been inheriting his build of the Eternal Life with all the boosts. So it'll be when we talk later on the upcoming matches on if that'll be something that maybe helps or hurts going into week 2.
Hmm.
Duh, let me ask you a question before we
Sure.
move on to the next match. What was the thought process behind putting 17 on, the coveted cell build instead of, defense +3 or
Mhm.
super +2?
Sure. Well, this is we tried a lot of different things with 17, right? We tried super, defense, attack, and he can do all of them. But he's been fine on every single build. Um, but the reason we put him on attack is basically to one, we want the eternal life. That's such a huge healing boost passively, right? And you can easily gain a bullet plus just sitting there, right? Um, then we looked at the attack over defense, and we're like, well, we need to match toe to toe with the damage output of M Vegeta, right? Um, and we're like, how do we do that easily, right? We can obviously tank it, but we won't be able to fire back as easily, right? And we know M Vegeta can be very in your face, doing
Which makes sense.
a 9,000 melee combo um, um, during the match. So we're like, well, we need to match his damage at the very least. So we put him on the cell build, the Indonesian, serious, eternal life, etc. Just a little jack of all trades build, um, and just to try to help. I'd say not mitigate, but try to like go even with Vegeta, which obviously he was able to do.
Gotcha. And let me get both of yours opinion, DoorGuard and Donut. What's your opinion on MVG being on Rush Blast 3? I mean, those in the league know that I'm not the biggest fan of Rush Blast 3,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't seem that it helped him out too much. But what's your thoughts on that?
So going into that, kind of 2 big things with that. One is since he is banned from Master Blast, they are obviously wanting to, since attack +2 does boost the blast attacks, trying to basically maximize it. He is on an extremely offensive build with attack +2, defense -1, serious, rush blast 3, fighting spirit, quick fast attack. And Shiatsu AI tends to do pretty well with that. This was one of those rare scenarios where he didn't really get into any combos. He tends to end them with some mash rush volleys or cross mash rush volleys that do his mount basically similar to a B2. So it was definitely one that is a risk to take. It is a 3-point build. So it's just like with Eternal Life, you're basically putting half your build into it and hoping that they use it. And obviously, it may have not panned out as well this week, but we have seen in preseason and testing that they have been able to get it to work. But it's certainly one that you have to wonder when it doesn't work, was it worth having it? Another
Mm-hmm.
big thing that might have missed is with early Piccolo out, he is their Eternal Life user. So bringing in the Eternal Life on 17 is kind of a strategy to have that higher healing over, especially with Dende's removed on 2 characters. But yeah, Donut, what did you think of the Rush Blast 3?
Like I say, it's a gamble. It's definitely a gamble. If it's like going for like a football play. If it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't work, well, you kind of just threw the game a little bit. But in this case, it didn't work out for them. But I know in preseason and testing, the Rush Blast has been known to do very well on Vegeta. He's been able to utilize it pretty well. Um, so I think it's fine as a tutorial to use. I just don't know if they can find an AI that can make it consistently good. That would be ideal, obviously, for them. But I think it's a fine tutorial to put on him, no matter what, because obviously his Rush Blast can easily do 5,000 plus, right? If they all land. And of course, that's the other thing, you have to make sure they land, right? I think one problem with doing it this week was that the Rush Blast could be absorbed by both Super 17 and 19. Um, so I may not have put on them this week, but in future weeks, I can definitely see merit in doing so.
But here's the thing, like DoorGuard was saying, with Dende's healing removed from the team, actually it's not even on the Resurrected Warriors at all. Do you think that it would have been better just to have Vegeta or Vegeta and or Videl on Dende's healing over Power of Rage and Rush Blast 3? 'Cause maybe that could have helped him do a little bit more damage in the long run.
Sure,
Would have brought back.
I could see Dende's on Videl or Eternal Life on Ada type of thing.
Fair.
But I think keeping and Vegeta on the Rush Blast, since we know he can be very deadly, and in testing, he and Vegeta on this build, I believe, was able to go toe-to-toe and beat Cell. So, I think it's fine. I think maybe allocating some healing onto the other characters may be the way to go, potentially. But we'll see what they do in the upcoming weeks.
Certainly a team philosophy issue here, because I could tell you, depending on what team you ask, anything like Power of Rage could be seen as useless to must-have. So it's really all over the place, and it is really interesting some of the variety of Pataras we're seeing this season and combinations, especially with the amount of testing that has gone in with over 1,200 tests. So there's going to be a lot of surprises coming out and a lot of strange choices that may seem weird on paper, but when it's out there in action, and I know and Vegeta suffered a little bit this week and didn't quite show off that full potential, but there will definitely be a time and a place where it just totally explodes. Does anybody have any final words before moving on to match 3 of Muscles and Rugrats?
That's all for me.
Same here.
All right, so we have match 3 is Team Muscle versus Team Rugrats. Now, I believe this was an extremely close vote from the preseason week, and really could have gone either way, and this one was a hard one because both have unique advantages, and Rugrats being a smaller team, so they are harder to hit with B2s, and Team Muscle having some transformations that create different unique scenarios with Power Body or B1s are really all over the place because it really enhances them. So it came down to who kind of had the guys pop off further, and unfortunately for Rugrats, Team Muscle had some pretty interesting stuff happen that match. What would you say is some of the main things that brought in this victory for Muscle Oasis?
Fully, simply put, I mean, well, two things I would say. A is the fact that it was the starting matchup between Arale and Super Trunks. I feel like that was a mistake on Rugrats' part, starting with Arale, especially on a Super Plus 2 build. Sure, she's an android and will get her key back over time, but not having her B2 out immediately as she comes out, such a waste of an advantage. Plus, Super Trunks is probably one of the best mailers in the league, and Arale definitely isn't too known for her melee. Sure, she will get off, a couple smacks here and there, but versus Trunks, that's not going to work too well. Sure, it came down to the last bar, but Moreover, Broly with his, 11k Eraser Cannons, 10k Eraser Cannons, and Kakarots and Saiyan Soul and all that jank, all that cheese really gave Muscle a huge edge over Rugrats, who, in my opinion, used to have a lot of, not cheese, so to speak, but a lot of damage potential in Kid Trunks. But he was on, what was his build? He was Key plus 2 Latent Energy, Dende's Healing Indignation, Kabio Secret Art. Back when he was on Key plus 2, Indignation, Eternal Life, Serious, this man could definitely do 2 characters and more. Because he had the key, he had the damage on both B2 and Melee, and the man already is an android. He has passed the 3-bar key, or 3-bar charge up automatically. He can stay in your face and then launch a B2 whenever he feels like it. I wish they would go back to that. I feel like if they had him on that build, this would be a different story. That's just me.
Sure. bouncing off of the Broly statement, yeah, and Broly's obviously the one you look at when you look at muscle, at least in my opinion. And that's basically goes without much saying, without much debate. But the spiritual control obviously is does wonders with Kakarot spam, right? And just being able to say, hey, let me throw an ult, do Kakarot ult again, and take out a character at the very least, right? And it's like, well, all right, there's one character drawn without much effort, essentially, right? But going into what you do to start, I think, as Oasis said, putting Aurelie in later into the lineup with Savior is kind of like her bread and butter. Comes in, does a ping or a woohoo, and says, "All right, you have an instant 10K right there,"
Right.
and that's huge. That's game changing in some cases, right? So I would like to see something like maybe Kid Trunks going up against Adult Trunks, or maybe Cell Jr. And the reason I say those two instead of Cyberman, who's been one of the usual starters, would have been something because Adult Trunks has Dende Ceiling, right? And I don't know if Cyberman is aggressive enough in his melee and his B2s to make sure that the Dendes doesn't just absorb every single damage that Cyberman does with his attack minus one. So I would say put Kid Trunks out, maybe swap just Kid Trunks and Aurelie, and might have been a different result. Now, obviously, Kid Trunks was the star of Rugrats, right, by a good margin. The only one doing over 40,000, actually doing over 70,000 for them. But if I think then maybe that changed, Aurelie may have been able to do her fair share and may have been able to squeak out the win. But yeah, so those are my initial thoughts on the match.
I think it just came down to and kind of following up what you're saying, Donut, is more of a prediction choice here. I don't want to take too much away from Team Rugrats. Toshiro is a very smart coach, and he knows what he's doing. And I think it came down to the reliance on Bojack starting and having him. He's usually been on a more tank or spam build, and Aurelie definitely out spams and out tanks because she keeps in their face and she kind of
Sure.
makes it to where they can't heal or they can't do that. And she still did a respectable 34,000 against probably what Muscle would call one of their main guys in Super Trunks. So the fact that she basically kind of neutered him to start was a good start. It just came down to what happened afterwards. So I don't want to harp too much on how it began because
Sure.
there's a million factors. Had she spam ping over and over and over again and did her 40 right there and Super Trunks did nothing, obviously there would be a huge change in how this match went out. I think where it fell apart was, as we were saying, Cell Jr. Kind of just ended up pulling up a little short this week. I think he's a very underrated character. I think he has immense potential, and we've seen him do a lot of different things. But I think the lack of healing on pretty much everybody except for Kid Trunks may have hurt a little bit, and coming down to personal opinions and all that. But overall, I think it was a very close match in potential. I know it came down to I think a bar and a half, and then it was mostly Kid Trunks, but it really going back, we can see Cyberman and Aurelie nearly hit their 40, and they were both one B2 off of really turning the match around. But yeah, there was definitely, I think we talked about it last time too, about the insanity of the almost full tech switch on Broly, and it's a build he's done, I think, a long time ago, but they've gone back to that spiritual control Kibito secret art super plus two, and from preseason week 4 to this week, the amount of just he's hit an ult every week, and he's done even more after that. So
Mm-hmm.
that was just a hard kind of wall to come over. Android 13 may have been also struggling a little bit. He ended up still hitting his 52, but there was a period of time there where you thought he might just drop the ball a little bit. But I think it was overall like a fantastic match. It just came down to who kind of predicted and got their lineup just that slightly bit, more to that advantage, because that really came down to it is who got that start lead and who I was able to carry it. Because Kid Trunks, Broly, these characters were going to come in and change the landscape. So it came down to who could create enough of a barrier or a buffer before that all got going.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, DoorGuard. It's like, while that is true, both Kid Trunks, Broly, going to be the pivotal moments in this match. I feel like if they didn't start Arale, you have to factor in Raleigh into that same conversation as well, because like Donut was saying, if she had started off with Savior, able to melee someone in the face with her power body, max power move power body, that would have been 8K right there. She would have been ping ponging them around. Then include the fact that she would have B2. She almost always uses a B2 on max power mode. That's half someone's health right there, and she had done that on Broly. I mean, this could have been a completely different match because he would have been at half health. He wouldn't have been able to charge. He wouldn't have had time to use his B1s. Sure, he would have eventually transformed, but it wouldn't have. Cyberman wouldn't have been taken out as quickly as he was if Oli was down, 2 health bars, 3 health bars versus a Raleigh. So while we shouldn't harp on the start too much, I have to say that definitely hurt Rugrats in the end a lot more than anything else. Also, 13 doing 52K, even though he was derping just a bit, it's a testament to how good he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bounce off that. Yeah, obviously, we already talked about the lineups and how those could impact things. But you can say of any match, right? But I think the team actually was kind of a surprise for Muscle, surprisingly, because talking with some of the supporters, he was kind of like the trouble child for a little bit, the problem child. And you don't usually think that with that team, but obviously he did his 52,000. It's like, well, I guess he's back online, which is scary for the rest of the league to think about. You thought it was just Broly for a second. Maybe they're both trying to sound like, well, that team's back in action, so have fun with that. Um, but I think that team did well. Jackie Chun did what he does, down to a few clashes. Obviously winning those as he does usually. And yeah, overall, very, very good performance from Muscle.
I think we've almost exhausted this topic now. I think it was a
Yep.
very good match, and it's definitely going to be looking forward to see how both teams take their result and move on to week 2. Again, this first week there was 0 divisional matchups, so the results aren't as really harming, but they are still ones to kind of build upon for these next week. Are you guys ready to get into match 4 of Sentai versus Kaiju?
Sure.
Sure.
Alrighty then, so Sentai and Kaiju. This was a kind of a battle of, to some people, the meme teams. You have the dancers versus the monkeys, and that could change at any point for Kaiju. There are a few characters that can transform, such as Slug, who are not on their squad right now. But overall, it was a kind of a surprising come out win for Kaiju. I think people were not expecting some of their characters to do as well as they did. Namely, Raditz had a very strong week. He certainly held his own and did what he does best. And Bardock doing what he does best as well. I think there were some worries when people saw Nappa out, seeing as he was a powerhouse of the preseason, and kind of wondering if that would be maybe the final straw. But with being on a night map, there was always that worry of Sentai with their reliance on Rush B2s. And even though I think only one guy, Bardock, I think he's the only one who went ape, surprisingly. And it ended up not even being the biggest of issues, but it was still enough and late enough to where only Birder was left. And with 2 Rush B2s and 1 Beam B2, he was basically fighting not just an uphill battle in health, but in what he had to overcome.
Absolutely. This seems like a very close match. Honestly, this is a very 50-50 due to the fact that how Sentai Squad, like you're saying, has Rush B2s, but then they also have Jace, who, as we have seen in the past, been on Super Plus 2 and can just blow through all of Kaiju if he so chose. But the biggest thing I would say here was the fact that Raditz did extremely well and Saiyaman did very poorly, to say the least. Raditz destroyed his man and did a little extra damage. This is more than we're used to with Raditz. Typically, he's the one on the receiving end of punishment. And I think that was just a motivation booster for the rest of the team to go out and get their man in the end. I will say that the Bardock being the only one to transform is shocking. Out of all the people, I would say you don't want Bardock to transform because attack plus 2 becomes a tad bit less useful. since his melee is a lot slower. But then, of course, you did have King Vegeta doing what he does best, ulting into Captain Ginyu, putting his health down, as increasing their lead further by further. I would say that at the end of the day, teamwork for King Kaiju brought them this victory. They all did about 53k, except for Skylar Vegeta and King Vegeta. But Skylar, he came in near the end, and King Vegeta, he did nearly 40k, so it's fine. But Sentai Squad, the only person who did above 3k and actually got their men, to be perfectly honest, was Jace with 68k. So it's definitely a teamwork issue. People not showing up when they needed to, and if Sentai Squad can get one more person, do 68k, 58k maybe, then their team is going to be very scary going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that Bardock and surprisingly Raditz did very well. And it's great to see Raditz actually, shine a little bit. He's been obviously the big problem child for Kaiju. But I'm very shocked to see some of the numbers from Sentai Squad, like Berta, especially being being subpar to what we're used to seeing. And I don't know if it was just a matchup thing, just may not be able to um, handle his opponent. I believe he went up against, was it Bardock? I believe. Is he a Bardock or King Vegeta? One of those two?
It was Bardock.
Bardock, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Bardock isn't exactly the easiest character on Kaiju to handle, but still, you expect a little bit more than under 20k. And then, obviously, Saiyaman having his own issues against Raditz, of all people. Very shocking there. So I don't know if it was just an AI issue or it's not being able to get off the ground, essentially, get any momentum. What happened with that? It's very, very, very interesting to see how that played out. One thing I noticed that Nappa was obviously on. He's kind of been the backbone. That he's been very solid for them in testing and preseasons. So using one of the stronger benches for week one, especially against a Sentai squad who, on paper, due to the 8 forms, should struggle against Kaiju. Since they have a bunch of rush B2s and ultimates. So using that bench early on was very, very smart by them.
I would certainly say there was some kind of following up on that, Donut, on the already natural disadvantage. They kind of tried to go all in on a potential counter. Saiyaman had Draconic Aura, and so did Captain Ginyu. And with that build, Saiyaman had 3 points in Draconic Aura, 3 in Dragon Power, and then Ki +2 Super -1. He got into one clash and lost against a non-clash boosted Raditz. So basically 6 points of his build ended up not being utilized very well at all. So I think it came down to they tried to go, hey, this is a bad matchup. There's going to be, basically, we might as well go high risk, high reward, and see if we can pull out the win by doing something. It was very smart to take out Woman since she is all rush B2s, so they tried to give themselves the best opportunity with the Draconic Auras, having Sandman out first so that he can maybe try to get someone before they go ape. But overall, I think it was just, it was always kind of like their natural weakness, fire and water kind of issue here. And even though they tried to bring out a lineup, they kind of already knew that it was going to be a underdog kind of battle. And I think there'll be matches where Sentai have the upper hand just based off their lineup and how persistent some of their characters can be. But this was just one that was always going to be uphill, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a very good point. There's the fact that they're rush beat. I mean, here's the thing: is that Kaiju isn't necessarily sure they can transform for the most part on their own map, but they aren't necessarily known for transforming. Of course, hindsight's 2020 in saying that sure, you probably shouldn't have invested 3 points into Draconic Aura and then 3 other points into Dragon Power, but I don't know. I would say that it was a good idea. Definitely, it's a good idea to invest into at least Clash Boost, Power Rage, Dragon Power, stuff like that. but the Draconic Aura I don't think would have worked as well, especially early on in the match. If you wanted to put it on like Jace or Birder, who have fast melee already, you can definitely get out ahead versus Giants. Sure, that makes perfect sense because they'll always be out the Giants. They'll be able to smack them around for as long as they wish. But early on, it's Saiyaman who hasn't been the most, who hasn't been performing as well as others in preseason, to my knowledge. Maybe not the best idea, but I do love the ingenuity, I love the creativity. They keep bringing that to matches. From here on out, I will believe that they will eke out the win time and time again.
Yeah, bouncing off that, I love the ideas behind it. And I know that Ginyu tagging in early wasn't what they wanted. They wanted him to be sitting in the back just in case they needed the Draconic Aura. But obviously, I said hindsight's 2020, and theory to practice that differs. But if they can keep on showing some creativity with the builds and trying to find small advantages like this, I think it will pay off for them in the long run. So I like the idea. I like the ideas behind it. The intent was there. Just unfortunately didn't work out for them this week.
I would just say, following up on that, Donut, is the ingenuity's there, but it was just a lot of unfortunate with the losing of the Clash, a few Savior supers not hitting. It just came down to not only an uphill battle, but not quite getting the dice roll as well. So, unless you guys have anything else to say, I think we've just about kind of established what happened in Sentai versus Kaiju.
That's about it for me.
All right, I guess we'll get on to match number 5, Hybrids versus GT. Now, this was another anticipated match due to GT being a new team, Hybrids being a relatively similar team. They are technically just the Gohans plus one Smexy Trunk, but he has been a little bit of a problem child. So it was who was going to be out, who was going to come in, and what was going to happen. And I'd say the start of this match started as a immense brawl between Super Baby 1 and Ultimate Gohan. And honestly, even after those two died, it was basically still 3-on-3. But where it really kind of fell out of favor for poor Team GT here was Kid Gohan coming in and doing nearly 80k. Super even match, 3-on-3 basically, since both starters died or did their 40, killed each other, and that was about it. But Kid Gohan came in and showed up, so much so that even with Future going in and cleaning up what was left, Sword Trunks didn't even have to hit the field. And really, this just came down to one of those matches where maybe GT still a little untested, still trying to get lineups together, but overall was just a unfortunate loss for them.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail right on the head. Super Baby 2 is definitely one of the stronger members, and to have him going toe to toe with Ultimate Gohan, who's also very reputable in the league, I would take that as a win. But past that, and I mean, Kid Trunks versus Kid Gohan versus Pan, I definitely give it to Kid Gohan due to how well he's been able to hold on to his defense build. And if when he's on Attack Plus, he does well as well. He does very well. But I must say, like you were saying, DoorGuard, looks like Pan and uh, Sin Shinron still need a bit more testing, still need a bit more thought put into them. Not to say that there wasn't any put into them, but it seems like they were struggling versus high melee characters, uh, what's it called now? Max power mode spam characters, and those two Future Go On and Kid Go On just swept the field. I will say though that the biggest letdown I would say would definitely be Sin Shinron. He didn't do as much as I would hope, especially for a Shadow Dragon. I was hoping he would at least nail into a Kid Gohan a bit more quickly, but he didn't do that as fast as I would like. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, just unfortunate events for GT in my opinion. But I am certain they'll come back and show what's what. Since Zal is coach, and knowing him, he knows what he's doing. He'll figure it out.
Bouncing off of that, you said people you were kind of surprised about. I'd say for me it'd be Vegeta. for GT, only doing about 12,000 on the match. And last week we saw him, kind of style on muscle of all teams. So for him to have a, 12,000 performances kind of has shocking him. But Future, I believe, was Future he went up next. Kind of took it to him, right? Um, but I want to bounce back to Sin, Shenron, and you're talking about how maybe Bill's saying have to be worked on a little bit, maybe lineups have to be worked on a little bit more. And I think one thing to maybe be able to play with is like Master Throw. You know how Sin Shenron loves doing his Master Throw, his throw just in general, and you can combo that with Combo Master since the throw does about like 20 hits, I believe, something like that. So I don't know if it stacks like that. That'd be something we have to look into for them. But if they can do some sort of like niche build for him, that may be able to get him his 40k plus consistently, which would be a big boost for them. But going back to the hybrids just kind of popped off a little bit this week, which I know they love seeing. Future and Kid both getting it all off, both connecting with the ult, and doing 70 plus, right? So yeah, I'd say overall, just kind of a great performance from hybrids. I wouldn't say it was just a terrible, just abysmal performance from GT, but there's obviously some stuff you do look at, say, hey, we need to work on this character, or hey, we need to look at this a little bit more, and kind of theory craft a little bit on how you can make them work.
I mean, I would have to disagree slightly on the Shin Shenron. I do think there is immense amount of build utilization that could be optimized here since he is a relatively untested, but he did his 40k, so as much as we would like to complain that maybe he should have done more, he did the bare minimum, and the bare minimum is a lot better than some of the others. As we said, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta flying into a beam to kill himself, and some other just unfortunate decisions by him kind of was probably the biggest thing since Pan missed her one ult that she threw, and being that she is a super bonus character and not hitting that ult, especially on the super defense that was Kid Gohan to kind of wear him down. I think it was just a few factors like that that were just a little too tough to kind of come back from, even though Super Baby One gave him a fantastic lead. So if Oasis wants to has anything else to say, or you as well, Donut, I think we've pretty much slammed through this one pretty quick as well.
Yeah, that's about wraps it up for me at least.
Yeah, I would say you probably hit the nail right on the head, DoorGuard. It just felt at the end of it, it felt like a 1v4 due to just bad mistakes on the count of Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, on the count of Pan tagging a little bit too early. She tagged out at 2 bars, but I feel like if she had stayed in just a tad bit longer versus Gohan, he may have been able to, the rest of her team may have been able to clean him up faster, which would have prevented the ult on Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. Just have to see what happens next week. Honestly, there's definitely a lot of potential in this team. Yeah, it is a new team, but this wasn't probably the best start for them this season. Also, back to what Donut was saying in regards to Sin's build, I don't think Master would be good on him, nor would Combo Master, since Combo Master doesn't work on throws too much.
Oh, it works on throws. We tested that.
Is it really?
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Zem, our lead tester, has done a few off video tests to check on Pataras and their usability, and it does work on throws. Hence why Super Boo has Master Throw and Combo Master. So there is potential. It's just, do they want to lean into it? And Donut feels they should. I think his key build is probably fine. They've had some alright results, but it is certainly something they can look into, since high tension is 3 points, so they could throw 2 points into that.
True. This is very true. Except the only problem with his throw is that it's so slow.
Yeah, that's the one issue you have.
If you had false courage, Oasis, I would agree that maybe it would be usable, but I think it's a little lackluster in this current situation. Well, shall we get on to match number 6, Earth Defenders versus Budokai?
course.
Sure, let's do it.
Alrighty then, this was probably one people were expecting to be a little quicker. Earth Defenders off preseason have, uh, unfortunately for their opponents, been 4-0ing relatively consistently. I would say Budokai really brought it to them. They did
Mhm.
manage to take out a few members and really push them to their limits, but in the end, I think the power of Earth Defenders and kind of their just surprisingly base strong characters and cast here is just going to be one that is kind of tough to beat. Mid Vegeta really popping off, nearly going elite with 88,000. I mean, TN did his 50. He always seems to do 50. And even though Mid Goku only did one thing, it was an ult and it hit. So it was just kind of a hard match to fight. I think I know me and Oasis are terrified of Earth Defenders being in the same division as them and going, somehow we got to get through this. So it is going to be an interesting season, but I do think Budokai is a strong team and they should not take this loss too harshly. It's still a non-divisional match. They had two members, Nam and Goku, really did do their work. Early Goku got a little bit of sideballed, and same with Cyborg Tao, but Cyborg Tao can never lose, so this is only a loss for 3 of their 4 members.
Yes.
I would definitely say that going off what DoorGuard said, definitely having Nom beat Krillin any capacity is definitely a win, regardless of the end result. Because Krillin, this man, I mean, like the rest of the Earth Defenders can sweep teams. The fact that Nom is back up to the level of Krillin, or pretty much past Krillin at this point, is a overwhelming victory. Because Nom has been having his problems since season 8. He hasn't been as potent as he has been before that point. But now that we're seeing that he's doing very well as a starter, it's definitely something to look forward to going down the line. Mid Vegeta being Mid Vegeta is no surprise to anyone. Him coming out having great melee, great rush blast, rush B2, aim B2, and then just utilizing all part of his kit, take out Cyborg Tao, to dig into Kid Goku, it's to be expected, honestly. And
Yeah.
just right. I mean, and probably the biggest thing that I'm surprised about is definitely going to be Mid Goku just coming out and throwing out an ult and taking the match. Of all things,
Yeah, so bouncing off of that, I would say Mid Vegeta just absolutely insane this week. But we kind of expect it from most Vegetas, right? Because they can just be some of the best in the league. And I say Nam going toe to toe with Krillin, obviously, and actually beating him quite handily, was actually nice to see for Budokai. I think that was our first introduction to Krillin for this season, if you include preseasons. Um, so it was good to see him back on the field. But yeah, I think the main focal point of this match was Mid Vegeta and Tien, right? Tien put him back on his tank build again, with the defense +2, eternal life for the healing, then latent energy for the tankiness over time as he gets lower and lower into his health bars. And yeah, I think that's one of his strongest, if not the strongest build they have on him or have had on him. And yeah, I think there's not much more to say on those. On this one, Asuma Goku coming in, doing his 4,000, clutching the match, right? They won one without him. But yeah, I think overall, this Mid Vegeta kind of stole the show for this one.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add on to that. I think both teams really came out and put in a good effort. It was just one where everybody kind of knew Earth Defenders might be the team to beat from preseason, and with the first showing of Krillin not being super impressive, it leads to some hope. I guess, are you guys ready to head on to the 7th map or match? There is 7 maps that we use this week of Derp versus Buujins.
One last thing I want to talk about for Budokai as a sense of praise for them. Say Goku went toe to toe with Tien, which is not bad by any means.
It's a very good benchmark.
Yeah, that's if you can go toe to toe with Tien, you're doing pretty well overall. So that's something they can build upon. So Vietnam and Goku doing very well. I know they had Kid go throughout this week, which means he'll be in next week. So I'm interested to see what he'll do. Um, but yeah, so those you have half the team, obviously doing very well. Just want to touch up the other two, and then you should be back in form. And like I said, Budokai is no slouch of a team by any means, so I expect some good things going forward.
Absolutely. Uh, I will make mention. I kind of wonder maybe if they can get Cyber Tao back on his season 8, season 7 build. He was attack +2, class tech serious, uh, savior, light body, all that good melee nonsense. Where this man would just pummel you to death, and then hidden blade you at the end of his combo. Just repeatedly do this over and over. If they can get that back, the Cyborg Tao. Imagine this team, because you already have a fantastic starter in Nam. You have an ult spammer, and you have a fantastic ult spammer and Goku. You have another ult spammer, B2 spammer, in early Goku. They can get that one working, and plus Cyborg Tao with his melee, fast melee, and then this team will be unstoppable, in my opinion. This is one of the teams that I have hopes for, making it all the way to the Kaiju Bowl. Then can just keep their fundamentals down, all their builds correct, and have everything working out for them,
It's kind of the saying of this 2020 season. With so many new
Mhm.
teams and even the old teams getting some switch ups with new characters, it's a hard one to pick favorites in, because even though all three of us are supporters, or as the two of you are coaches for teams, it's hard not to look at other teams and go, just what if they can make that? What if they can get that guy just rolling a little better?
Mhm.
Exactly, DoorGuard.
Yep.
Exactly. But
Mhm.
they'll figure it out. I believe that they will figure it out, since it is 3 Gokus, a Nom, and the Cypher Tao. I wouldn't say it shouldn't be hard, but they do have a lot of potential awaiting to be unlocked.
There's definitely avenues for them to go down to make it work.
Exactly.
Now then, let us get moving on to another match. This is probably one of the might be voted as one of the worst matches, because I don't know if people really care for that much of slaughters, and I find it a very unfortunate match to happen. Is Derp versus Buujins. I think Derp is a team that based on their premise, people think of them as a weaker team, which is unfortunate because of how strong some of their characters are individually, and they certainly have, at least stats-wise, the potential to be very high enders, and especially against Buujins, who Devilman's ult pretty much does most damage to all. It does full kill Evil Boo and does almost all of Kid Buu. So they certainly had a slight advantage coming in, but I think most people would agree Buujins coming in as probably one of the strongest teams in the league this season, and I think most people have considered them in the top 3 to 5 easily. It was really going to be a who got the lead and could you continue the lead, and Evil Boo coming off destroying Fascia in preseason. Exact same build. His AI has swapped a few times, and it looks like sticking on Cell AI here. And he did his thing again. And even though Mr. Satan destroyed his best friend Majin Buu, rest in peace, their friendship. It was still a very good match. Obviously, it was almost a two-man show for Buujins. You have to wonder if Maju was on his game this week, because he came out and did 1v2, and he's certainly a flip-flop kind of character. So this really could have been a lot closer of a match than it was, and it just happened to be one that ended up being a little bit more of a slaughter.
So here's the thing. In my opinion, this is definitely reminiscent of Kaiju versus Sentai, right? Derp, definitely an underdog in this matchup, has a lot of climbing to do versus the Buujins, who literally, in premise, they could literally mash a controller. I told this to the coach of the Boos many times already, but their team essentially just wins because they can. Not because they want to, just because they can. Because you have Evil Boo. The man literally can be down 3 bars and then Kamehameha you, flame shower breath you, melee you, and you're dead. Then you have Kid Buu. Then you have Maju. Maju, in particular, I don't think he's a flip floppy character as much as the rest of the league think he is. he's definitely a powerhouse in his own right and can destroy many characters if he so chooses. It's just the fact that he, the amount of Patoras they already have on other characters is finding the right ones for him that exemplify his strength. That's what's going to be hard. But regardless, Derp had a very uphill battle to climb, and it's helped by the fact that Satan did what he did. He spammed his B2s, he spammed his rush buzz, spammed his present bomb, did everything correctly. Budokai didn't do too hot in his first in the opening match versus Evil Boo. I mean, that was to be expected because, like you mentioned before, DoorGuard, Evil Boo beat Fasha, and that should never be understated. Fasha is probably between Kerr and Kid Trunks. Those two are probably the best mailers in the league by far. And for Evil Boo to take her down, that's definitely a very scary sign for any other team. And him versus Kibito, that's definitely a wrap. Devilman not using his ult in the fullest capacity, I mean, at all, versus Buujins was definitely a letdown because of the amount of damage it would have done to that team alone, somewhere between 20k, 30k even, that with his super minus. Android 20 not having the best performance. He was out there. He was out there with his 28k. He did well, ish. And then Hercule obviously, Hercule with his 50k. I feel really bad for this match. Not gonna lie, because what can I say? The entire team of Buujins and quite handily if it was a 1v4, they could quite literally do it all on their own. Every single one of them. And that's just dedication on the Buujin side for figuring out those builds, the precisely of the builds to make sure that every member of their team could do something like this. Nothing against Derp. Derp will definitely have a better showing next week, for sure. Buujins, I don't know. That's just Buujins are just a monster in and of itself. That's all I gotta say about it.
Okay, so bouncing off of that, I think for what it's worth, I think Derp did okay, based upon the matchup, right? And the reason I say that is because Salza was out. And Salza is actually one of the stronger members nowadays, which is a little shocking if you're an older viewer. But he's been doing very well for them in preseason and testing. So for them to bench him, obviously in favor of for divisionals later on into the season, is smart by them by the mindset there. Because I don't know, even with Salsa in, I don't know if they would have done it, if they would have gotten the win, but obviously would have gotten close, I think. Devilman not hitting his ult, not even using his ult, was unfortunate because I know they wanted him to come in with Savior, throw out the ult, and then knock one of the members out. That would have been ideal for them. On the flip side, Buujins, obviously every single character is strong for them. There's no like weak link that you can look at and say, oh, he's going to drag the team down. Every one of them can hold their own. And then Evil Boo and Super Boo both did very well, 73,000 and 85,000 respectively. And I'd say that Super Boo kind of carried the match a little bit. Well, obviously Evil Boo carried earlier and Super Boo late. And if you have to look at a problem for Buujins, if you want to counter that, would be the Hercule versus Majin Buu matchup, where Majin Buu just kind of walked into Present Bomb after Present Bomb and was like, well, I'm taking 10k every time. But I think it went about as expected overall. When you look at on paper, I think Dr. Giro actually did pretty well considering the matchup of Evil Boo, who's not the easiest character to take down for anyone, and especially being on a defense build. I know Dr. Giro and 19, so they both have the same sort of kit and niche. They both don't like going up against defense builds. So I think it went about as expected. There was some high points to look at for Hercule and Supreme Kai, and then obviously there's some low points to look at for Devilman. But I think they'll just shake off the loss. Souls will be in next week, and they should be able to get back on track next week against whoever they're facing.
Agreed. I would have to say that the tags made the match look a lot worse for Derp because overall they had one guy do 50, one guy do 40, one guy do 30, one guy do 25,000. So damage wise wasn't terrible. They didn't have somebody who just did nothing. It just came down to Boo's doing a lot of tags, doing all their shenanigans, and being a just overall hard and kind of the line people are looking to beat them Earth Defenders and potentially hybrids as the teams kind of to beat this season. Which is funny since they're all in the same division. Rest in peace, Oasis's heart. Uh, but
Well, you
overall, I
already
think
know.
it's and especially going into next week with the divisional between hybrids and Buujins, this match is more of a testing ground I think for both teams to kind of try some stuff out. Shall we get on
Mhm.
to the last match of the day then?
Sure.
Sure, why not?
All right, Cold and Cinema. So this was the C versus C. I think there was a lot of anticipation. Cinema is another brand new team coming out. They've had a lot of strangeness happen in the preseason. They somehow managed to snap Turles of all characters from Kaiju, and overall, I think they're looking to make a name. Cold becoming going from the Colds to Cold Kingdom, getting a slight variety change with Raccoon in there now, a surprising drop from Sentai. Both these teams had a lot to prove, being 0-4 from the preseason, or I think one might have been 1-3. I would have to look it up, but I think they were both teams coming in here to kind of make a point, and they both started off with what they hoped would be a very strong lineup, and Cold just kind of walked away with this match, unfortunately. So much so that they were one of the other teams that did not have a member step out onto the field in first form Cooler, who is I would say Cold King is a team that also doesn't feel like they necessarily have a weak member as much as can they do more than their 40, and this was a week that showed that they had three members that easily did more than their 40. And unfortunately, even though all of Cinema did around the same amount of damage, when you're all doing about 30k, that's just not quite enough to take a match. So I think we predicted Cold Kingdom coming out, and they would be probably a little more antsy to prove their point last week. I think it was a 2-1 or 3-0 vote. I think it might have been 3-0 if I remember correctly, Donut. But yeah, it was certainly a match to see which team would come out and get their momentum building from preseason, and Cold was the one to step up.
Um, as I'll
For
take it
sure.
um, real quick. It was 2-1 by the way in favor of Cold last week on a prediction. I'd say the main standout performance would be King Cold and Raccoon. King Cold going toe to toe with Fasha and performing admirably, just taking the cake on that one. And then Raccoon coming in and taking it to Dota Jr. and then to Zengaya afterwards and basically nullifying both of them, right? Both of them doing under 30,000. And then it came down to Frieza and Gogeta, and while it was a back and forth, Frieza's kind of, when you're the last one and you have to face four people, you don't want to go toe to toe with anyone. You want to be able to wipe the floor with them. So yeah, Cold Kingdom, very impressive showing, very impressive. Um, and I feel like you can't look at an individual member from cinema and be like, oh, this person underperformed heavily because of this reason. I think just across the board, they were just kind of outplayed overall on an individual on a 1v1 scale. But I don't think there was anyone who said, well, oh, you didn't do this, so that's why you lost. The only way you can think of that would be maybe Zengaya being able to do a Psycho Thread into a Sky Zapper, which would have been ideal. But instead just opted for some Rush Blast and some Melee instead. Uh, but that's the only thing to really think of. But I think Raccoon and King Cold just kind of stole the show this one, personally.
Dylan, you're absolutely right. Because I mean, the thing is that the thing we've been seeing a lot with these new teams is that a lot more testing needs to be done. I mean, in the form of this match, at least, Cold has been a dominant team throughout the league's history. They've been off and on, sure. I don't think I ever recall seeing King Cold be this strong in the starting position before. I don't think I've ever seen Raccoon be this strong in second hand position before. I don't think I don't even remember third floor Frieza being in the league before. So like all these factors of strong characters having strong showings and having strong potential versus a newer team that hasn't exactly gotten its footing in, it was definitely a not underwhelming match to see, but it was definitely one to keep in mind of in terms of cinema hasn't had the time or history that Cold has to build up to such an impressive performance that we saw here today. Uh, on the while that's pretty much all I gotta say about the match, especially besides the fact that Raccoon did so well. I'm very proud of Raccoon, who on past iteration Sentai Squad, the Ginyu Force, hasn't been the best member. Sure, he did his 40k on Ginyu Force, but he wasn't a standout character. But here, from Cold Kingdom, where he's essentially been able to shine with the Batoras they gave him, doing 65k cinema, that is a impressive turnaround from what we've seen in years past. But that's just Cold Kingdom doing what they do best and making characters their own and making characters that they see have the potential for and building around their specialties. One of the more important things I would like to talk about is Turles not being in this match. I would love to figure out what the reasoning is behind it. Turles, I would believe, is one of Cinema's stronger members because of the fact he can turn ape, because of the fact he has power body after he transforms, and because of the fact he likes to tag. Whether it be early, whether it be late, as long as there's a person in the lineup, he loves tagging. So that extra health bar might have swayed this match in the favor of Cinema. Maybe Cinema was thinking that they didn't need Turles because this was an easy match. Maybe they thought that, hey, this is a losing scenario, so maybe let's bench our better characters since we're going to not perform as well anyways. But regardless, I really do wonder what would have happened if he were there. Uh, that's all I gotta say.
If I want to speculate on the reason why Turles was benched, the next match is against Kaiju, I believe.
Ah,
Yeah,
Now,
there's a lot
now,
of planning into it, and I would say they certainly
yeah.
didn't take a weak lineup. Zengaya's the only character they'll openly admit is on the weaker side. I think it just came down to they're going against another team in a similar situation, and they're still trying to figure out what their best lineup is, seeing as how they only have one savior character on their team. And I think it's just part of that, trying
Yeah.
to still get their rhythm set.
no, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to doubt anyone's weak on their team DoorGuard. I'm just saying that I feel like if they had Turles in, who had the B2 potential, the damage output that surpasses everyone else except Fasha, this might have been at least cooler may have stepped on the field. Is all I'm saying.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, actually, more importantly than that, what happened to Fasha? I definitely did not see Fasha losing to King Cole in incapacity. Maybe sure it would have been close, a bar or two maybe. I did not expect King Cole to pull out ahead of Fasha. That was probably the most surprising part of this match.
Definitely. When you look at Foster, you think, top 10 character, right? Consistently throughout many seasons. And King Cole's never had that stats behind him before. Not saying he's a bad character, obviously, but you think Foster would win in a majority of a melee fight. There wasn't many B2s that actually, that's one thing, right? Yeah, they were fired, but none of them landed. So it's all melee essentially from King Cole, which makes it even more impressive. Um, on the Fasha thing, on going back to the reasoning for the bench, I said Kaiju is on next week, and yeah, it's a home map for Cinema, but if they bench Druid Junior to say, they had to have Druid Junior about against a possible ape, and we know how it likes to do the high speed rush, which then it bounced off with the apes, which then causes problems for Cinema. So I think it's just a more of a strategic bench this week, and plus not being a divisional also means you don't have to put your best lineup forward. Obviously, you want to do your best, but you don't have to be your optimal lineup for the first week, since no divisionals. But I think it's a good way to test characters a little bit, maybe. To say Turles is a pretty decent character for them. They may have him already lined up with his build and his AI and all that, so maybe want to give some more footage of Garlic Jr. or Zingaya just to see what happens with certain things. So it may be any reason, right? It's all speculation. So
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's fair. What were your thoughts on third form Frieza though?
I thought he did pretty well, right? He did a lot of B2s, a lot of B2s. Didn't really land many of them, but he did a lot of B2s. So a lot of high speed rushes. He kind of walked into a few explosive waves from Gogeta, but that happens, I guess. But overall, he was very consistent and did exactly what you expected a Frieza to do. It's 40k plus almost 60,000, nearing that much. So if you get him consistent like that, they'll have no problems reaching playoffs and potentially even further.
Yeah, I guess a
Fair.
few finishing remarks. As we have been going pretty in depth over this matchup here, is the biggest reason for third form Frieza is it's the only form he gets that he can both heal and they get to keep Eternal Life on the team. And seeing as how they found King Cold's best build with Eternal Life, it's just seemed like the reasonable solution to both maximize Frieza's potential by giving him some healing still without having to have healing on him, even though they do with Dende's, and keep Eternal Life as a usable Batara.
Yep, makes sense.
Fair.
All right, shall we move on to the predictions, the last segment of our podcast today?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, well, this one's not going to be as long-winded as the previous section, but certainly still a fun one. So starting off, Cinema versus Kaiju, kind of funny how quickly we landed on that. I would have to say for my vote, it would definitely be Kaiju coming off of their win. I know it's an away map, but if they have King Vegeta and Scouter Vegeta, they have two transformations without the moon, so they might still have a strong scenario, but I think until Cinema can figure out why Fasha is broken, it's going to be a slow roll season for them.
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty much. If Fasha comes in and does what Fasha typically is known to do, I would say it's going to be a close match, but Kaiju would still take it regardless. Because Kaiju will have Nappa in, so the Kappa cannon will be alive and online. Kaiju has, like you were saying, Scouter Vegeta. They have Bardock. I believe they're going to bench Raditz, if anyone, or either Raditz or Bardock, one or the other. If they bench Bardock, then this will definitely be a close match if Fasha does what she needs to do. If she doesn't, then definitely Kaiju will have the favor. If Cinema can get Gogeta to spam a bit more, and use the super explosive waves literally just a tad bit more, then this will definitely be an interesting match. If Turles comes in, transforms, and tags, and works with Fasha to tag in and out as a combo, then Cinema has it. So honestly, I still give it to Kaiju. But if things fall in the way of Cinema, then Cinema definitely has a shot.
As for me, I'd say Kaiju. I don't think it'll be a clear-cut Kaiju win, but I do think Nappa will be a game changer for sure. And I think Nappa can easily carry a match against Garlic or Zingaya for sure. And even I think to go toe-to-toe with Gogeta, possibly. So I'd say Kaiju on this one.
Alrighty then, so that sounds like a pretty solid vote for Kaiju. On to match number 2, which is the first divisional of the entire season, is Buujins versus Hybrids. Seeing as how all teams in West Kai are 1-0, this will be both an important match for establishing who has the highest potential to not make it to playoffs, as well as just who is going to really struggle for the trying to keep up with the others if the other teams win. Obviously, being a Buujin supporter, I won't go too much into it, but I feel, especially from previous testing, Buujins have been able to beat hybrids, so I would have to obviously stay with that.
I mean, personally, I would wish they both lose because I wouldn't want to fight any of them. But it really depends. If hybrids bench, so okay, here's the thing. The strongest lineup of Buujins, in my opinion, would be Kid Buu, Maju, Super Buu, Evil Buu. My opinion. This is the strongest lineup of hybrids. King Gohan, Future Gohan, Ultimate Gohan, Gohan. If you break it down, Evil Buu beats, if they were to have specific stars, Evil Buu beats Ultimate Gohan easily. King Gohan can carry, but Maju, not Maju, Super Buu can definitely shut down King Gohan if he gets in. If he doesn't get in, King Gohan will sweep and will carry the match by himself. Majin Buu can definitely clean up after Super Buu, but not to the level that Future Gohan can. And then Kid Gohan versus Maju. I give that to Maju. At the end of the day, I would say the hybrids have the edge because I mean bias be it all Buujins lose because I want to face Buujins later on, but that's besides the point. Hybrids do have the advantage so long as Team Gohan pops off. If he pops off, then hybrids just win.
Okay. For me, I'm thinking Buujins. I think that overall a more consistent lineup, like from character to character, and there's also the sort of Trunks factor that yes, he did do pretty well in preseason, but Buujins is a scary team, and I don't know how well he'll adapt to some of the stronger members on their team. Kid Buu will be in this week, so I think he will match Team Gohan's output, kind of nullifying him in that sense. So I'll say Buujins in this one.
So we have a 2-1 by technicality, a Buujin supporter. So we'll probably call it more of a 1-1 here for this match. Moving on to match number 3 is the second divisional with Androids versus Budokai. Now, coming off the results from this week, I think the obvious vote would be Androids, but I would have to say that, unfortunately, for Budokai, they are also the away team, so this will be at Glacier. So my vote would be Androids for both not only their previous result, but that map disadvantage against a team that has no Androids and a team that is obviously all Androids with the key penalties adds might be one that just is a little too rough to overcome.
Yeah, I would have to completely agree. Android, if they have Android 16, I think that's a wrap just by himself. If they have Cellin, that's another wrap. 17, and the list just goes on and on. Budokai can definitely inch out a win if Numb plays to its strengths and sticks to it. Besides that, if they have 19, 17, Cell, 16, then it's definitely in the favor of Androids, especially since they're at Glacier, like you said. So overall, Androids will probably win this one.
I have some bias on my own with Androids, but yeah, we will definitely have Cell in this week since we did bench him last week. So, and Glacier obviously helps overall on my team. So yeah, I'll say Android.
All right, so we are at the halfway point. Team Cold versus Team Muscle. Now, this is probably going to be one of the closer matches. Both teams had very good showings this previous week. I would have to side a little bit. I know it's going to be at the home map for Cold, but I would have to side a little bit towards Muscle. I think Super Saiyan Trunks is just in a very good spot. The Broly build has just been doing a lot, and mixed in the fact that they are probably going to go in a little all in on this one and might take out Roshi, seeing as how it's still a few more weeks before their first divisional, that it's going to be one that they are fine with putting the effort in to get a victory. So I think it's Muscle, but only just barely. It'll probably come down to who ults more.
Well, if that's the case, I definitely give it to Cold Kingdom, especially if they have Rakumen. Honestly, the fact that King Cold beat Fasha out, I have no doubt in my mind that King Cold will beat Super Trunks. And with that lead, he will just continue to build it as long as he's still alive. If not Fasha, if Cooler's in, you're gonna have ult spam from him. You're gonna B2 spam from him. You're gonna have Rakumen ult spam, super spam from him as well. Frieza's in. And, you've seen how consistent Frieza has been with his defense build. Versus Muscle, sure. Android Super Trunks definitely no slouch. Broly, he can one-shot you from 4K to 0 in a matter of seconds, sure. But 13 has been looking a tad bit shaky. He definitely disses damage. He did 52K this week. So I mean, I can't say much about it, but he has been known to act a bit strange when around B2s. And since Cold Kingdom's all about spamming B2s, keeping away from their opponents, I think they have the advantage. They will probably inch out a win. I honestly don't think it will be close. I don't think it will be close at all in favor of Cold Kingdom.
Wow. For me, I'm gonna say Muscle. The only reason I say Muscle is because Medical will be in, who's pretty understanding been the worst member, I believe, from what I can tell. And then Bojack will be in for Muscle. And Bojack with his ult with his Grand Smasher, could be a game changer, right? He can easily do 10 to 13,000 and kind of spam that. So I'll say Muscle on this one, just solely off of the benches who are coming in.
So it sounds like we're just barely on the side of Muscle, but I think this is going to be one of those matches that is almost impossible to really fully decide on who's going to win. Moving on to match number 5, we have Derp versus Namek. Obviously, Derp is going to destroy. Now, I honestly, if I had to go at this one, I would say with the struggles Derp's having, it would be pretty hard not to see Namek coming through. Just due to the fact that I feel character-wise they have a little more consistency over them all. But I think Derp can certainly snipe it out. It's just a struggle with Devilman basically having no good targets to go against. I think Evil Piccolo, he does do a good chunk too, but there's a lot that's going to be kind of a struggle for him to deal with on Namek. So I'd have to give this one to Namek.
I mean, as the coach of Namek, I would have to say the Namekians will win, but you're absolutely right. Derp has the potential to uh, do immense damage very quickly, especially with Mr. Satan. Prison bombs, B2s, those two pretty much can destroy any of our members at any point in time. Their rush potential, if they clash with us a good bit throughout the match, they'll win. Because as you already know, a clash does about 4K. So 2 to 3 of those, that's a bar right there. And if all the members can do it, Budokai can do it, Old can do it, Satan can do it. They can stick to their clash advantage over us, they'll win it. But in terms of his raw power, I would say we have the advantage, especially if Nuova does what he did this week versus Dirt. Yeah, it's going to be very hard to get past that.
For me, I think they'll bench Devilman just because there's not many good targets, and then the next week they have it says Kaiju, who's a little bit more, favorable for Devilman. So I'm looking at that. I'd say you're having Salza back in, and you're having King Piccolo back in for Namek. It comes down to Hurtle, right? In my opinion. So I'll say Namek because they have a more consistent overall lineup. They have like Piccolo, they have Nova. If they bring both of those, I believe Namek will win this. And then Tambourine obviously can go toe to toe with most characters will lead. So yeah, I'll say Namek.
So certainly hesitant in some of the decisions, but I think it's a pretty easy slide towards Namek for this match. Moving on to match number 6, we have Earth Defense for Resurrected Warriors. It always feels bad going against a newer team, but I think Earth Defenders are still just riding their tidal wave of success from preseason, and unless 18 pulls an elite, I think it's going to be very difficult. Now, they do have multiple androids that can really get into the face of the Earth Defenders, but it's kind of hard not to say Earth Defenders here in this situation.
I do believe this will be one of the closer matchups. If 18 and Ader do what they did this week and maybe expand upon it a bit more, and if NVIDIA can, act like the Vegetas we have high expectations for, maybe do 40K, 50K maybe, I definitely would give it to Resurrected Warriors. Sure, early Piccolo is early Piccolo, but hey, he can definitely still help out with Special Cannon, his rush B2s, his clash potential. He definitely has that going for him. And
Mhm.
all it takes is just, 18 spamming her ults, either being aggressive, him playing on power body every so often. The
Mhm.
team focusing more as a unit, maybe tagging once or twice, and they'll have it.
Mhm.
Personally, I do. And if Resurrected Warriors use some boosts here, nothing wrong with using a boost because I used it myself this week. If they use the boost, then I definitely see Resurrected Warriors winning this. Uh, so that being said, I'll go with RW here.
Um, Thinking about how coaches may play this out, right? I think defenders may take this time to bench mid Vegeta. Considering RW is deemed a weaker team in comparison to just by perception by some of the characters, right? With Piccolo struggling and Vidal kind of struggling. Um, so with that said, I think RW may take that off the back of I think Ada can go toe to toe with Tien, and I think that 18 can match mid Goku. Um, and then obviously, and Vegeta is a Vegeta, so you know he'll be able to do good damage. So I'll say RW, yeah.
Alrighty then, we have 2-1 for RW, looking to be a contentious match of the week as both teams certainly have something to prove. Earth Defenders trying to keep their win or their lossless streak from the preseason, and Resurrected Warriors trying to prove they deserve a lot more praise. Moving on to match 7, we have GT versus Royals, another non-divisional. I think after this week, some hopes for Royals' potential has certainly dropped a little bit. I think both these teams are very strong. They may have both lost, but I think they both easily have potential to win this. So this one's probably going to be another close one. I think I would have to maybe just give it to Royals because I feel like they are a good bit away from a divisional, so they may feel like maybe a boost or maybe taking out Pilaf here is not the worst decision.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Royals, they are a very strong team melee wise. They are heavily offensive, stay in your face. Not much B2s to be thrown. They will just they'll stick to their punches. And it seems like GT has a bit of a problem with that in the form of, look at what Kid Gohan did this week. All he did was stay in their face with a couple of B2s. So if Rose can capitalize on that weakness, on that fatal flaw, then I definitely suspect that they'll win this out. Sure, GT definitely will have Super Saiyan 3 Goku back in, which is a huge help to their melee power. But at the end of the day, Majin Vegeta, Slug, if he's still in, King Mecha Frieza, those three alone, I definitely feel like can take this match.
Yeah, I say Royals on this one. I say that with pretty much ease on that one. Just because Majin Vegeta, no Mecha Frieza, both very strong characters. I think if Select can transform, it may nullify Pan a bit. Who likes to be very in your face with the melee. Um, and yeah, I'll say Royals on this one, just straight up.
All right, it sounds like we have a pretty landslide talk on Royals, but seeing as how they are two new teams, this is another close match, but Royals seem to have just the edge. And for the final match, and a good way to end the week, to be honest, is the last divisional of Sentai versus Rugrats. Now, this is a hard one because Sentai have next week starting with the divisional as well. So who they take out and what boosts they use are going to be hugely impactful here. And knowing that Rugrats has a 1 week break before their next divisional, they certainly will take this one serious. But I think Sentai may put in the boosts here and might be able to use that to sneak out a victory. But I think Rugrats overall looks stronger. But I'm putting my money a little bit on Sentai to try to use this match and next week to really build their kind of win category for the preseason or for the mid-season to postseason.
I had to give it to Rugrats. Quite literally, Arale Kid Trunks are a very potent duo. Those two, I feel like, can take on Sentai by themselves. Even if, sure, don't get me wrong, Cell Jr. and Cyberman are definitely characters. But if push comes to shove, Raleigh and Kid Trunks can get the job done. Just on Sentai, thus far, the only person who I would say I have the same confidence for would be Chase. Maybe Burger. Outside of that, I haven't seen too much activity going on in the matches with them in. So I definitely give it to Rugrats, just based on sheer numbers alone.
For me, I'd say Rugrats as well. Goten will be in, so they have a possibility of fusion if they want to go for that. And I feel that Rayleigh and Kid Trunks, who we are almost sure will be in, considering it's a divisional, will be able to kind of carry the team in Sentai. I think Kid Trunks can easily take out either Say a Woman or Say a Man, and then do damage onto Bud or Jace, whoever comes in next. So yeah, I'll say Rugrats will be able to take it.
Alrighty then, so 2-1 for Rugrats. Being a divisional, it will be a very close match, and both teams will probably pull out all the stops, as we've said, with the potential for Go Tanks and Boosts and the other things. So, unless anybody has any final notes.
That'll be it for me.
I would just say that I don't think the Royals should put in Slug versus GT. That's just me. Yeah, that's about it.
Alrighty then. Well, this has been week 1 of the Capsule Cast. I would like it if you guys could like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We will put the Discord in the description as well. There are a lot of fun people in there. You can get a lot more into the discussions if you like hearing what you hear today, and you can be more a part of it. We will be having special guests joining us, such as coaches from other teams as the season goes on. This week or last week we had Zem. This week we had Oasis. We may have a combination of me and Oasis, and who knows next week. So just make sure to keep your ears open, and we will talk to you guys next time.